Bobby Karalla, one of our favorite Mavs talkers in the world, joining us now. You can read his stuff at AllCity DLLS. And a good afternoon to you, Bobby. Thanks for joining us again here on The Fan, man. How the heck are you?
It is good to be back with you guys. I think the last time that we talked, things weren't too good.
Yeah.
Hey, it's turned around quite a bit since then.
This is amazing, and I'm picking the Mavs to go to the finals. I know we have to negotiate OKC, but the kind of basketball they've been playing is great. And, what I wanted to start with was, how is the offense evolving here, asking Luka to speed it up? And are we playing more Kyrie style like this? What do you say?
I think that it's a little bit of both of those things. So Luka is definitely making an adjustment because he's not on the ball as much. He's not dribbling as much. He doesn't, his time of possession is down like 1 or 2 minutes per game from last season. His usage rate is down actually at like career lows. He's spending more time spotting up. Almost half of his made threes this season have been assisted, and this is a guy who last year hit like 200 or 300 step backs. I mean, he creates his own offense, but this year he's been the end point of possessions as opposed to the start and the end point, and part of that is his adjustment to get Kyrie more touches or get Najee Marshall more touches or whatever. But part of it is also just, Luka knows after going to the finals last year, we watched them beat the Clippers, the Thunder, and the Wolves with Luka exhausted and banged up and injured for most of that run. By the time they finally got to the finals, it looked like he was running on fumes. And I know, some fans feel very strongly about his conditioning level, but also, the Mavs have just asked him to do so much throughout the regular season for so long on offense that it feels like he's got nothing left on defense. And sometimes he runs out of gas in the playoffs too. But this year he's playing probably the best defense of his career, and he's touching the ball less than he has at any other point in his career. And I feel like that's not a coincidence.
Was there any truth to the idea that his absence was like remedial conditioning needed?
I don't know. I'm inclined to not think so, because he has been pretty banged up and he hasn't even practiced the last 2 days. And apparently there's some doubt about his potential availability for tomorrow's game against the Clippers, but I'll believe that when I see it, because that dude hates the Clippers like I hate Sunday nights. Like, he is very anti-LA. So, we'll see, but I think he's just nursing everything. But it also is one of those things where, they now know, again, having been all the way to June, the best way to give themselves the best chance to make it out of this Western Conference is to make it to April and May and June with a really healthy, really fit Luka and Kyrie. And Kyrie's gotten off to such a good start this year and Luka, meanwhile, kind of hasn't by his standards. And so if you're able to get Luka some rest now, and then eventually I'm sure it'll be Kyrie's turn to maybe, skip some second nights of back-to-backs and things like that, that's how you keep them fresh for the home stretch and for a potential playoff push.
Bobby, the Mavs since November 15th have been the NBA's best three-point shooting team. They're hitting a ridiculous 45% of their threes. I don't think that's sustainable, but being a top 2 or 3 three-point shooting team in the league, do you feel like that's sustainable? And wasn't that really a huge plan of bringing in Klay Thompson and revamping this thing?
Yeah, I think they are, on paper, definitely a top 5 caliber three-point shooting team, if not better, depending on the night. And they have been pretty combustible over the last few games. I mean, they're shooting 45, 50% most nights these days, which is insane to see. I mean, like the other night in Golden State made 27 threes, which is the most threes ever in a loss. They were 27 of 54 from three, and they had the second highest three-point shooting percentage in the game. Like, the Mavs shot 51% from three, so they're red hot. I mean, that's definitely part of the plan because of the way that OKC and Boston specifically defended the Mavs in the playoffs. I mean, they were just leaving Derrick Jones open. OKC very famously left P.J. Washington open, and he made them pay. This year P.J. got off to a bit of a slow start, but he's starting to heat up. You go out, you get, Najee Marshall, who was a career best 40-something% from the corner last year. You get Quentin Grimes, who the first 2 years of his career, he was about 45, 46% from the corner. And then Klay, and Klay obviously is the linchpin of the whole thing, but if you go to the DLLS Sports YouTube channel, a couple of weeks ago, I did this film breakdown about how even though like Klay's individual numbers at the time weren't very impressive, he still has this impact on floor spacing because a lot of times teams are face guarding him. Like, they are staying home on him in ways that we just frankly haven't seen defenders do against Dallas. Generally, teams want to double Luka or double Kyrie to, for two things. One, to get the ball out of their hands. But secondly, to leave a bad shooter open. Well, what if the shooter in the weak side corner is one of the best three-point shooters of all time? Like, teams have to weigh those risks. And oftentimes they were face guarding Klay. Over the last couple of weeks, though, we've seen teams start to double team Luka and Kyrie more. And so it's no surprise that Klay's productivity has gone up in that time. I mean, we're really seeing this pick your poison aspect of the Mavs offense play out in real time. And, that's been good to see. But can they sustain it for 82 games and then for 16 more? Only time will tell.
What do you think about this shakeup among the front office? You got Sint Marshall, who's leaving after 7 years in the organization today, appointing Rick Welts, the new CEO, who has background with Golden State. I know Klay was pretty pumped about this move, it sounded like.
Yeah, I mean, that dude is a lifer. He started his career as a ball boy in Seattle when he was like 16 years old. So he's worked in the NBA longer than many of us have been on this earth. And in every role, along the way. I think his main area of focus, and this has been pretty explicitly stated by him and by Patrick Dumont of the Mavs ownership group, is he had a huge hand in building the Warriors Stadium, the Chase Center in San Francisco. And, crucially for Mavs fans, the Warriors own that stadium. So any event that happens there, any game, any concert, anything, that cash goes in the owner's pockets. And NBA teams are very expensive to put together these days. Luxury tax prices are steep. It takes a lot of cash to, put out a competitive roster and a championship roster. And, the Adelson family is very wealthy. They're worth like $33 billion or whatever. But if you're able to get a stadium built with your own cash, with your own capital, you reap the rewards of all that in terms of profits, and you're able to pour that back into your team to build the best facilities, to field the most competitive roster, to have the best everything. So hopefully that's just another advantage that the Mavs can have in the marketplace when it comes to attracting stars, keeping stars, keeping everybody happy and all that stuff. So, I mean, he's a basketball legend. He's a Hall of Famer as an executive. You don't see that happen very often. And, it was a really, really nice job by Patrick Dumont and the Mavs.
Hey, Bobby, with the Mavs getting bounced out of this tournament, was it actually a blessing for them? When you look at how the schedule played out for them and it allowed them to, they were on the road, a bunch of sick guys and stuff like that. Did not going further in this tournament kind of help them a little bit?
I think in one respect, yes, because they did get so much time off. But on the other hand, it meant that they have to play an extra road game at OKC, and that is brutal luck of the draw. This year it's 4 games against the Thunder for them, and 3 of them are at OKC. Now, if you're willing, and I, for the most part, am willing to trade one really tough game or maybe one loss for 5 or 6 days off for Luka and Kyrie, I am absolutely taking that all day, every day, because if the Mavs had played a normal stretch of schedule during that 5 or 6 day stretch, right, there's a pretty good chance Luka or Kyrie would have missed a game anyway for rest. So, I would make that trade. But, I don't think there's enough data really on the NBA Cup to know. I mean, the Lakers last year won it, and then they, flamed out pretty bad in the playoffs. So I don't know if there is some sort of, lingering effect of having played that 83rd game or, a more travel, more intense schedule. This year the Thunder played 83 games, and so maybe they'll have a little less in the tank come playoff time whenever they meet the Mavs. So, but we'll see. I mean, I think any days off that Luka and Kyrie can get are huge, huge wins for the Mavs.
It's Bobby Karalla, AllCity Dallas. You said DLL Sports on YouTube for your stuff?
DLLS. So Dallas with no vowels.
Got it. I just subbed for you. Looking forward to your content.
Got a sub.
What are you seeing? I'll like the video too. What are you seeing as a Lively as a vocal leader here in year 2?
Man, he's really mature. He's really, really mature. And, let's rewind back to the Mavs loss in Utah that dropped them to, I think, 5-7. It was their 4th loss in a row. Lively was in foul trouble that entire game. He finished the game with 5 fouls. I think he might have only played 11 or 12 minutes. And it kind of felt like at the time, like, man, is he taking a step backward from last year? Like, I thought foul trouble was a thing of the past, and he can't stay on the floor, and he's struggling with some physical guys like Jokic. I mean, who doesn't? But even with centers that aren't as physical and aren't as talented as Jokic. But since then, he's averaging 2.3 fouls a game over his last 12 or 15 games. He's dominating. He is switching on the guards and holding his own. The Mavs go back to Denver a week or 2 after losing to the Nuggets, and Lively comes up with 2 huge blocks on Jokic in crunch time. He's making big-time defensive plays, and, if he can switch onto smaller players like he is now, if he can do that consistently, onto wings and even guards, then he has a very rare ability as a center to impact virtually every single defensive possession down the floor. No matter where he is on the floor, he can make an impact, whether it's blocking a shot, contesting or altering a shot, deterring a shot, or switching out onto a smaller player and keeping the ball in front of him. Like, that is a very, very rare short list of players who can do it. It starts with Wemby. You think of guys like maybe Rudy Gobert. Like, that's kind of the caliber of defender that he can be and that he's already in the process of becoming. And then, from a leadership and, fire and intensity standpoint, he's kind of becoming this team's Tyson Chandler. And, that's really exciting and really impressive because he can't even drink yet legally.
It's amazing.
Bobby Karalla, a trade season unofficially underway. We're seeing the Mavs, or we were at least about a week or two ago, mentioned in a lot of rumors. They were favored in Vegas to land Herb Jones, the terrific two-way player out of the Pelicans. Are they lighting up the phones? Are they looking to make something happen here, or is this just chatter?
Everything I've heard, from Tim Cato, Mark Stein, who are over here with me at DLLS, they insist that the Mavs are not in on Jimmy Butler. They also say that the Mavs, like every other NBA team, would love to have Herb Jones. That's an all defensive caliber player on a, bench player contract. Who wouldn't want that guy? The way I see it, though, given the Mavs' financial restrictions, they are hard capped at the first apron, and they are about $1 million away from that, which means they cannot take back hardly any more money in a trade. Like, they have to match virtually dollar for dollar. So unless it's going to be, they have a lot of guards that aren't making a lot of money, guys like Dante Exum, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jaden Hardy, so unless they want to turn one of those players into a wing or one of those players into a big, kind of like a straight up swap, or maybe add a pick to sweeten the deal a little bit, I don't see how they're going to make like a massive, super impactful trade or any sort of complicated like 2-for-1 or 3-for-2 kind of deal. But then again, the Mavs have not let a trade deadline or draft day go without making a trade in like 4 years. So I don't know. I really don't know what they're going to do. But my expectation is that if they do make a trade, it would probably be trading a wing or a guard with maybe a second rounder or something to add a little bit of size, because PJ Washington is so dang valuable to this thing. But when he is hurt, when he's in foul trouble, when he's having an off night, the Mavs are losing almost every single game, whenever that is, no matter the opposition. And so, I don't want them to be in a situation where, you're getting ready for round one, PJ sprains his ankle in practice, and now your season's over. So I think they need to shore that area up for sure.
What's your take on the three-pointers ruining the TV product?
I don't think it's ruining it at all. The one thing that I want to sympathize with the audience on this, people like me and people in the media will bash everyone over the head with like, not only is this the most efficient way of playing basketball, but also like skill is at an all-time high. But then you look at shooting percentages and you're like, okay, well, even the best players miss 60% of their threes, and the worst ones miss 75 or 80% of their threes. So, you're telling me that this is a skill game, but all I'm seeing is just more misses. So I want to understand where the fans are coming from and everything, but at the same time, bad shooters are going to miss, but then good shooters are going to hit. And that Mavs-Warriors game the other night was one of the funnest games I've ever seen in my life. Like, I wish every game could be like that, because they were knocking down shots and it was awesome. So, I do believe skill is at an all-time high. I do believe that the game is fun to watch. But we in the league, media, we have to meet fans where they are. And if fans have issues with stuff, that's what gets, rules changed and policies changed. And hopefully, I would love the refs to swallow their whistle a little bit more than they have been. And we can see some good physical play come back to the game to blend right alongside with this all-time skill.
Is Irving still over 50% from three? What's your prediction on where that number is in 60 more games?
Oh, my God. It would be awesome if he was like 48, 49% from three. That dude is incredible. He missed one the other night in Golden State. He missed it by like an inch. It hit like all around the rim like 5 times and then rolled out. And I was like, that is so unfair. But, he's shooting at it just a level that I haven't seen. And he's taking like 5 or 6 threes a game, too. It's not like he's just putting up 1 or 2. He is unbelievable, dude. So, again, that just underscores the importance of I need him to be shooting and playing and moving and looking like this in April and May. Like, these games right now are cool, but they have more important ones on the horizon, and I want to see Kyrie at his best whenever they're playing those games.
Anything else, Bobby, that's top of mind on these Mavs we got to know before we let you go?
Not really. They're back home. This is a good chance to hopefully get some wins and more importantly, to get some rest, stay off airplanes for a little while. And I'm looking forward to the Christmas game against Minnesota. I think that'll be a lot of fun, but these are the glory days, boys. Enjoy them.
Thanks, Bobby. We will. You too, buddy. Take care.
Thank you.